I should turn my microphone on. I turn it off to keep the dog from barking at you guys too much. Uh, hey Kyle, Modular had a bit of an emergency. Would you want to come on and talk? Come here, Lewis. Come here. You want to be on YouTube? You're stuck in traffic. Okay. Oh, see, this is why I mute myself so often. Is Louie. Say hi, Lewis. He's a dog, and he's loud and noisy, and likes to bark, bork, 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 bork. He's first time on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. Are you gonna be quiet today? No, I didn't think so. Oh, there you go. So yeah, I'm flying solo at the moment. I don't have my usual partner here to talk to, so I'm just gonna kind of talk about the things best I can. It's hard when you don't have somebody to bounce off of. So all those fancy streamers have hundreds of people in chat to yell at. I only have Kyle, which is great, but I hardly ever have to yell at him. Kyle, pretend to be a MAGA fan, like really hard uh, Trump guy, really hard Trumper, and then I'll yell at you. Just kidding. Um, so let's start off in Tennessee, where they've expelled some peaceful protesters, and not just the peaceful protesters, but the people who were the representatives who were backing it. Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, a couple of Justins, uh, have been kicked out of the legislature because they were part of a protest. People came to the town, to the uh, government. They were protesting, and these guys protested with them. I mean, it's just direct involvement within the First Amendment. Uh, we've got the actual bills right here. Um, permanent rules, not crowd. Okay, so this is what they did to get them kicked out. They didn't preserve order, adhere to decorum, speaking only with recognition, and crowding around the clerk's desk, avoiding personalities, and using props to display political messages. Oh no. Sounds terrible. Except it's not. They were just protesting the state of Tennessee not doing anything about gun violence. Do they have? See, okay. Do the Republicans in Tennessee have any ideas or plans for taking care of the gun violence? I don't think they do. Uh, you know, Senate panel, the first gun bills. No. Yeah, they're not going to change anything. So there are people standing on the door of the legislature saying, change the rules, do something, do something, do something, and they're doing nothing. So then these two guys participate in some protests and they get kicked out. Republicans scream at me all the time online about how it's a mental health, mental health, mental health, mental health issue. It's not a gun issue. It's not a gun. Not the guns. Not the guns, they say at the top of their lungs. It's all mental health. Where's your mental health bill? What is your plan for improving the mental health? They have nothing. And when you have nothing, eventually people get fed up and start doing protests. So these guys have used their First Amendment to protest the government, and the government has thrown them out because they didn't preserve order or adhere to decorum. Well, that's what protests are supposed to do. Protests are not supposed to preserve order and adhere to decorum. They're supposed to disrupt. They're supposed to be irritating. You're supposed to dislike the fact that a protest is happening.
Hello.
Oh, hi. How's it going?
Pretty good. I see you got started without me.
Yeah, I thought I'd give it a shot. Flying solo. It's not that easy.
Yeah, it's much more difficult when you don't have someone to just sort of bounce off of to at least try to help fill some dead air.
Yeah.
But
And then it just becomes me ranting. So it is a little
yeah,
tricky. That's okay, though. I should have just played video games, but I wasn't sure how long you were going to be gone.
yeah. Sorry, I
uh,
had something very important come up.
no, that's
So
fine. That's fine. Are you available at the moment, or do you have only a little bit of time?
I am available for now. Yes.
Okay, good. Because I think it works better that way. Um, I
So
got
we're talking about
I
the
got started, yeah, on the Tennessee Justins,
uh-huh.
and I went on a little rant. Did You probably didn't hear any of it, but what do you think of this?
I think that they mm, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, they did go up without being recognized where they didn't belong and pulled out a megaphone and led protests that shut down the chamber
Hmm.
for an hour or so. Um,
Yes, they did.
so yeah, that'd be I'd say grounds for expulsion.
Okay. Um, According to their rules within the House, that probably is grounds for expulsion,
Uh huh.
and so they did it, and it's gonna backfire. That's not how the
Maybe.
that's not how the normies are gonna see it. They're gonna see it as uh, two black Democrats for expelled for a peaceful protest. That's the way the
Yeah,
normies are going to see it. That's the way the
I think it's a little unconscionable to put it that way as well. I mean, yes, the 60-year-old white woman didn't get expelled, but she didn't get expelled by one vote,
hmm
and it was what 5 votes that flipped from expelling one of them to not expelling her.
hmm
They've been in the Tennessee Congress for 1 year.
right.
She has been in the Tennessee Congress for 11. So I'm assuming that she's at least managed to make 5 friends
Okay.
in the Congress,
Uh,
which I think would probably account for the flipping of 5 votes.
okay. Um,
I don't think it has
I
anything to do with the color of their skins.
I hope it doesn't. It's impossible to tell, but it can look that way and will be spun that way, obviously by the press because it is right here.
Sure. Well, also, when she got up uh, and defended herself in the hearing for the resolutions for the expulsion, she also, I think, was the only one to actually deny any of the allegations, which she said she never shouted.
Okay.
But the other 2 guys were using a megaphone.
Okay. They're It's suggested they weren't preserving order, adhering to decorum, speaking. They spoke without recognition, and they crowded the clerk's desk. They didn't avoid the personalities. And they were not using. They were using props and displaying political messages. I think this is great. I think what they
It,
did is falls within protest. And yeah, you're not allowed to protest within that space, which is fine. And the House has the uh, bylaws and rules and resolutions to remove them. But I think what they did is good. They have hundreds of people there protesting, and they represented their constituency. The people want the government to do a thing, and the government is doing nothing. So the people are frustrated, and these Justins are also frustrated. Yes, they've been there for a year, but they are the young people. I think it's not about black. I honestly don't. I think it's about young. I think it's about the youth of that Justin right there. Look how young he is. He's younger than both of us.
I don't
And
think that it's
he's,
about the youth. I mean their youth is a necessary factor in the fact that they've only been in the house for a year. I think if they were 20 years older and they had only been in the house since last year, they
mhm.
still would have been expelled for doing exactly what they did because they don't have the connections to pull off a vote flip.
If they
That
were 20 years older, they wouldn't have done what they did.
well, that's probably true too.
I think if they
I'm just saying
were,
if they were 20 years older and they still only had 1 year, they probably still would have been expelled.
yeah, I think they
So
would
not
have.
about them being young. It's
Well,
about
the actions that they took are
they
about
took
their youth.
actions, and the actions that they took, they didn't have the connections in the house yet to pull it off and avoid expulsion as a
Hmm.
result.
And what do we think of the actual protests?
Well, there are protests for more gun control, right?
Some of the people want that. Yeah, they want something done. Um, these
Didn't the Tennessee
guys,
House pass a bill in
I
response to the shooting?
don't think so. But I will. But I do not know.
Hey, there we go.
Bill to offer new school safety 2 days ago. So after these guys were booted, right? Thursday, so only a couple of days ago, approved a measure aimed at heightening school safety in both public and private schools, but without the support of the three Democrats. That's fine.
That would have had to
332, 95,
be
4.
in the works already, right?
Mm, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. They can write these things pretty quickly if they really want to. Uh,
It was
initially
initially
filed
filed
long
long
before
before
the
the
shooter gunned down six
shooting.
people. Okay. Additions were made to a legislative response to the tragedy, so they made several additions.
So they were
Includes
working on doing something.
policies unveiled by Lee. Well, the people didn't know that. If this has been filed long ago, the people aren't sure about it, but that's fine.
All right, but the
They're working on
congressman
a
did.
thing. The congressman did. Then they're doing a bad job explaining things. The bill does not restrict access to firearms. Um, includes requiring additional emergency drills in both public and private schools and increasing security with state, local law enforcement. The bill does not restrict access to firearms. Um, a bill that requires that they lock the doors and conduct annual incident command bus safety drills and require new built public school facilities to install classroom door locks and secure visitor entry vestibules. Uh, if they had this in the works and these people are protesting, why not just like tell them about it? I don't know. I think they did a bad job of explaining, but um,
What I want to know is why
others more.
didn't they? Yeah, the why didn't the three people that disrupted the proceedings know that this bill was in the works?
They
Because it was
might have,
filed,
but they
and if they
wanted
knew, then why would they go up and do
to
what they
restrict
did?
fire access to firearms. This is
Oh,
this sentence right here is the problem that they have with it.
okay.
So yes, it's entirely possible that they knew this was in the works, and their problem is that it does not restrict access to firearms.
I mean, sorry.
Sorry. Well, we'll just
You're
keep
not gonna
fucking
get.
getting shot. Kids will just keep dying. It'll be fine. If and I said it before you came on. If Republicans have been screaming at me, not the guns, not the guns, not the guns, it's not the guns, it's not the guns, it's mental health. Where's their mental health plan? Where's their bill addressing mental health? There never is one.
Good question. Where is it?
Where is it? This doesn't mention it at all. This talks about doors and floor plans and private security guards. Turning schools more into prisons.
Um, I don't think they're prisons.
You got man traps and doors that have to be opened and open up 17, bzzzt, and then the door to 17 opens up and then all the children file out.
Well, I think the purpose of the school is a lot different from the purpose of the prison.
The purpose is, but we're going to build them the same way.
Well, prisons are generally very secure.
Right. They're also very limiting and what's the word? Uh, Confined. You know. Um, I understand why these guys did it, and I think that I like that they did it because protests are not supposed to be pleasant. Protests are not supposed to preserve the order or decorum. Protests are not supposed to be calm and pleasant. You're supposed to make people upset. They're supposed to be unhappy with the protests. The You've said in the past that the government should fear its people. Well,
Uh-huh.
the government should also fear its people when they're protesting, not only when they're shooting at them. They should be uh, inconvenienced by their constituents who are protesting.
Well, this whole expulsion is not because of a protest. It's because these guys disrupted the House floor
With a protest, in a protest,
as sitting members of the House.
as part of the protest, yes.
If they had gone out and protested outside with everybody else, then they would not have been expelled.
They did that too, but they did
It's not about the
bringing the
stuff they did
protest in.
outside, though.
I know bringing the protest
This
in is what got them expelled, which I think is awesome. Bring the protest in. I 100% support the idea. Bring the protest in.
Okay. I mean, we just disagree, I think.
That's okay. I mean, if the people are confined to the free speech zone, and the free speech zone is not next to the legislature, and it's far away, and the legislature isn't bothered or notice or have anything in common with the free speech zone, then your protest is worthless. I am glad that they are in the state house yelling and screaming. And I'm glad that the state representatives have to hear it. And I'm glad these guys brought it in.
I just don't think it really works that way. I mean, if you just allow people to go in and shut down proceedings whenever they like, you can't have that.
I recognize that the constant protest would not allow them to function. Um,
So, at what point do you say you're not allowed to protest anymore on here, or
I
do you
think
just say you can't do it at all?
I think what happened here is fine. I think the Justins were highly upset and highly motivated by their constituents and those protesters, and they went in
Hmm.
there and they made some ruckus, and they got expelled for it. I think that's acceptable. If you protest and you get arrested, that's acceptable to me. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be arrested for protesting. Sometimes, if you're breaking things, if you're causing a disruption, arrest is acceptable. Um, then they face these consequences, which are the expulsion, and then they get their name all over the news. And then their name gets all over the news, and then the people pay attention. And then you and I talk about it. And then the people who are listening to us hear what issue is so important to them that they got expelled. They are bringing light, they're bringing attention, they're making everybody pay attention, they're making things happen, and hopefully, because of that, the Tennessee House then passes school safety bills. Is it possible? I mean, I guess we can't know what could have happened if these guys didn't do that. That this safety bill would have been ignored and shot down by 5 votes, and then nobody ever would have noticed.
I doubt it.
I think it's
I think
possible.
I think once the school shooting happened, then it was gonna end up getting passed.
Maybe.
I mean, you can't
I,
deny you can't reject a school safety bill right after there's a shooting at one of your schools. It's not politically feasible.
if they let it sit for a couple of weeks and then something new happens and then Trump gets arrested and then they just let it die quietly is what I would say is a possible situation where what could have happened is that the Republicans let it die quietly and then never brought it up again. They put in an amendment that needs to be debated, and that debate needs to happen in 3 weeks, and then that debate happens, and they don't vote on it, and then it just quietly dies.
Maybe,
Uh,
but was this bill introduced in the first place by a Republican or a Democrat?
well, I think it was introduced by them because that smells like a Republican bill. Doors and increased
Security.
security and no firearms changes. So that smells like a Republican bill.
Yeah.
And they are a majority Republican, so I suspect that is who brought it up. And
So your theory here
mm-hmm.
requires Republicans to shoot down their own bill or let their own
No,
bill die.
yeah, it requires Republicans to bring up a plan, tell everybody, hey, we'd like to do this to make a school safer, and then 3 weeks just kind of let it die because nobody's paying attention anymore. Yes,
I see.
they're not voting against their own bill. They're bringing up a bill and then talking about it in front of the cameras and saying, hey, this is our plan. We're going to do this. And it's going to be great. And then 3 weeks later, when the cameras aren't looking at you, you just kind of let it slide because nobody's paying attention, or the energy has gone out of the school shooting uh, buzz. Something else has happened, and the people aren't protesting you anymore. You just kind of let it slide. Um, hopefully, I mean, best case scenario, the bill that passed was passed because all those people are protesting.
Maybe.
And
Or maybe it would have passed all along.
maybe it would have passed all along. Maybe these guys made it work better. Hopefully, we can't really know. They're going to be back. Majority of Nashville Council members say they will vote to reinstate the expelled legislator. So now that they are expelled, what happens is that the Nashville City Council votes to find a replacement, and they're going to vote for him, which is why I
I've
think
seen a
that.
little bit about this, that that may be the case and may not. It,
Mhm,
it might be the case that Tennessee, I think, is their 113th Congress right now,
mhm,
and they've been expelled from the 113th. So there is the possibility that they can't come back until the 114th.
mhm.
So that's going to be a legal thing.
Entirely possible. Um, and I think the other option is to like have a special election, which this guy would run in, and since his name is all over the news, he would win.
That could be a possibility as well.
Under the Tennessee state constitution, an interim successor can be appointed by the legislative body of the expelled member's county until a special election is held. For Jones, that's Nashville, the Nashville Council, which is the legislative body of the city, and Davidson County Consolidated Government is officially a nonpartisan body. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. They are going to vote for him until a special election can be held in which he will run and he will win. And then he will be back in the thing. And um, he just became very, very popular.
Good for him.
And I think he became popular doing things for the public. I think, and or the people who are out there protesting at the moment. Judge news. Oh my goodness. Clarence Thomas slammed. I love slammed. That's the press's favorite word to put into a headline. Slammed. Um, so Clarence Thomas has been facing criticism over his relationship with a GOP megadonor, lavish vacations paid for by Harlan Crow, and he's just been. I think they're bribes. Uh, Thomas, who served on the nation's highest court for more than 30 years, has been accepting luxury trips from a real estate magnate and Republican donor for more than 2 decades without disclosing them. Without disclosing them. I think that's an issue, too. That's what might actually make it illegal. The report revealed that Thomas has regularly taken summer vacations at Crow's private lakeside resort in New York's Adirondacks, private jet, Indonesian vacation with Thomas and his wife. Ginny went on with Crow could have cost more than an estimated $500,000. $500,000 vacation that he didn't pay for. If Thomas had chartered the yacht and plane himself, it would have cost $500,000.
Yeah, it's expensive to charter a yacht and a plane.
Right.
This guy is a billionaire that just happens to own a yacht and a plane.
Right. So if he gives that to a judge and lets them use these things, it should be considered a gift.
The guidelines that are written specifically for the courts are relatively vague on that, but they did change it this past year so that the guidelines are updated to not allow this anymore.
Right.
So in the future, or from this point forward, he will have to disclose it. But I think that if anyone actually brings action on this, he has a pretty good shot of not being touched. So now it would be an ethics violation if he failed to disclose it.
It wasn't an ethics violation because it wasn't illegal. Ethics aren't. You can do unethical things that are legal. It doesn't make them ethical. The ethics is supposed to.
Well, what I'm talking about is the actual consequences of a person's behavior.
Okay,
right?
so
there is. I'm saying that for this, there's not going to be any consequences. But if he fails to disclose in the future, there will be, because the guidelines have been updated for ethical considerations.
Oh, I think if Biden has any balls, he'll move to impeach this guy.
He won't.
I know he won't because he doesn't have any balls. But if he did, he probably not. They're gonna write a sternly worded letter. Nancy Pelosi is gonna complain about it, and then he's gonna get away with it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like. I mean, we're talking about politicians here.
I know.
You know,
and
these are all people that they get free rides to places all the time. They get, lobbyists take them out to places that are very expensive to curry favor. Their husbands and wives, they get these crazy lucrative jobs out of nowhere at places like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. I mean, this is something that happens all through our political system.
Okay. And
I don't think it's okay.
Does okay.
But I'm just saying that saying it happens.
Okay. And is somebody going to look into it? Is maybe Jim Jordan going to start an entire uh, House committee to investigate it?
Probably not.
Probably not. But he did start a giant House committee to find out if a private company gave Hunter Biden $80,000. Because that's important. That's the height of corruption, if you ask the talking heads on Fox News. That is unbelievable, the height of corruption. But their judge, who they agree with, gets millions upon millions, and it's cool. It's fine. It's nothing.
Millions upon millions in terms of the use of a jet
Mm-hmm.
or a trip on a yacht
Mm-hmm.
or staying with somebody at their resort that they own.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are not financial considerations. Those are the estimated value of being able to do that thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like, hey, I've got a yacht and I want to take my buddies out on it. Do my buddies am I giving a financial consideration to them because they didn't have to charter a separate yacht on their own?
Are your buddies judges who
I'm
pass
well,
laws
that's what
that
I'm asking.
you
Is
benefit from?
hold on. What I'm that's what I'm asking is that a financial consideration, number one? And number two, the reason that the guidelines themselves said that personal considerations uh, are not necessary to disclose, like from an individual to an individual,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like staying somewhere with them, uh, is the reason that I think you'll end up getting away with it.
Oh, I think he will get away with it. Um,
Because the guidelines did say personal considerations do not have to be disclosed.
right. And
So the fact
he
is, so
abused those rules for 20 years. He flaunted them. He abused them. He got, I'm going to say it, you don't have to agree with me, but I'm saying he got bribes from a Republican person and not legislate, they judicialized, what's the word? Anyway, he judged in a Republican way because this Republican person is paying him and giving him lavish gifts that he doesn't have to. They probably changed the rule a year ago because he is so unethical. They see this problem with him. They say, this guy is taking millions from a donor. We need to change the ethics rules because he's going to flaunt them. He's going to bend them. He's going to break them. So yes, it was a year ago that they changed this rule. But could the impetus for changing that rule be the very, very unethical Clarence Thomas?
it's possible.
And that's the way I'm seeing it. That's the way it looks to me. Is when a new situation arises, you have to make legislation about it. We've discussed this in the past. Nobody knows what the hell fuck cryptocurrency is, so we need to pass laws. It just got invented. We need to come up with it. Somebody's seeing this problem, uh, and they are creating an ethics rule for it, which is why he will get away with it. Which is why he will say, "Well, those weren't the rules," and everybody will say, "Yeah, those weren't the rules. They are the rules now," and he will start
Following them.
following them, or get in trouble for not following them, which maybe, but I don't think so. Well, I mean, even if it makes him not take things from this GOP super donor, if this new ethics rule limits the amount of Clarence Thomas's vacations, I think that's great. If it limits what he takes from this GOP super donor, I think that's also great.
Okay, so problem solved.
20 fucking years of illegitimate grift from this fucking guy.
I do wonder, I mean, is there any evidence that he wouldn't have ruled the same way anyway, as he already did?
He,
Like, is there any evidence of him having talked in one way about a particular issue or ruling, or shown that he has a particular leaning on it, and then going on this guy's super yacht, and then coming back and having a totally different opinion?
I don't know. It remains unclear whether Thomas has violated any law or regulation by accepting such gifts and not disclosing them.
Right, because
They didn't have the rules, right? So
yeah,
has he changed his mind because of this stuff? I don't know. It's impossible to tell, and that's why it's a problem.
I agree.
The the since we don't know what they're talked about while they're on these very expensive vacations, since we don't know, it is impossible to know if he is corrupt. It is impossible to know whether or not he's changing his mind or checking
Right,
with these
or
people
whether
before he
it's just,
makes a decision.
or whether he's just hanging out with a friend on a super yacht.
Which is why you have to avoid it, right? You have to avoid things that look like
Well,
corruption,
sure,
which is why
but you
you have
did,
to disclose how many gifts you got.
but you did just assert that the reason that he's been making conservative rulings is because he gets bribed by his friend.
He is a conservative, and conservatives are bribing him, and his friends are buying him very nice things. Yes, there's a fine line between buying people things and then they agree with you and they like you, and prostitution. I mean, the line between dating and prostitution is very slim. It's very where does a date end and a prostitution begin? It's impossible to tell
Um,
if you do it right.
when money is exchanged for sexual interaction.
Right. But what if you just buy her $100 worth of booze? What if you buy her a really nice dinner?
The expectation when you do that is not to engage in sex as a result.
Well,
You buy her that
I
dinner and she still can choose not to
I know.
engage in intercourse,
I
whereas
agree.
with prostitution,
What if
you are paying somebody directly for the act of intercourse.
what if you have billions of dollars and you go on a date with a porn star and buy her a car? Then you have sex afterward. So it's a little bit of a crossing the line, isn't it?
Maybe. I mean, she still choose not to have sex with you after you
She
give her the
can.
car?
Of course she can.
Well then,
That's what the billionaire says
no, it's
anyway.
not prostitution.
No, it's not prostitution. Okay. Do you see how it could get
If
close?
you
How it's getting
if you
close?
agreed, I can see how you could call it close, but if you agree beforehand, hey, I'll buy you this car and then we're gonna have sex, that is prostitution
Okay.
because the condition for the financial transaction is sex
Okay.
as a requirement.
Okay. So it's so back on the topic. I'm sorry I shifted slightly. Did this guy, we can't know whether or not he took bribes and made decisions or if they're just friends and they're just dating. We don't know whether or not Clarence Thomas is a prostitute who took money to make decisions or if he's just going on dates with Harlan Crow. They're just best friends and he's just buying him nice stuff and taking him to really cool places and has nothing to do with it and they got nothing to do with politics. I, I don't believe it though because Harlan Crow is very, very political.
Sure, but it depends on, is he political on matters that have been before the court that Thomas has ruled on, and has Thomas changed any opinion as a result of his friendship with Crow? So we don't know, right? I would say that if Harlan Crow started hanging out with Thomas when let's say that there was some major ruling that the Supreme Court had when
Hmm.
they started hanging out 25 years ago that would impact Crow, then you might say, all right, well, what did he do and when? And then what was the end ruling on it? But if there isn't anything that Crow has in terms of business before the court, then is it just that Crow wants to influence a Supreme Court justice just for the sake of it?
Not to vote Republicanly, to lean to the right. It is a I we all say that the Supreme Court is supposed to be independent, but it is a right and a left on that court, and we know it.
Yeah, sure.
Um, Harlan Crow is a member of the founding committee of the Club for Growth and served on the board of the Enterprise Institute. American Enterprise Institute. That probably has to do with uh, researches government, politics, economics, and social welfare and stuff like that. So he is a political guy, and this political guy is giving millions of dollars of gifts to the highest judge in the land. It's blatant and it's obvious, and I think that it, even if you can't specifically prove, hey, Harlan said X and Clarence Thomas changed his vote to X, it stinks, and the whole thing smells like corruption, and it seems like the highest level of corruption in the highest court in the land. And one political party is going to be upset about it, and one is going to say it didn't exist.
I can agree that even if they're just friends and there is no corruption, it's still unethical. So I'll agree with you on that.
And I think that most people would agree on that. I think that is a sensible thing. That we're not jumping to any conclusions here. That it looks unethical, um, and I think that right-wing politicians are going to say, yeah, it looks unethical, but what are you going to do? Nothing. And I think it
Change the ethical rules so
change
that
the
you can't
ethical
do that
rules,
anymore,
which is a
which is
good
what they did.
idea, which is good. I'm glad somebody did that. Does Biden? We mentioned it, but Biden doesn't have the balls to impeach the guy.
I think even if he did, he would just point to the fact that the rule wasn't there before and it is now.
Okay.
So what do you impeach him for? You got to have a rule to impeach somebody for something, right?
Okay.
Like if you break a rule that doesn't exist, then
You can't just
you haven't
impeach him
really
for
broken a rule, have you?
being unethical.
Right.
Okay. Um, so literally nothing. It's going to blow over in a week, and we're never going to hear about it again.
Yeah, most likely.
Okay. Cool. These guys say he broke the. It probably won't matter. Clarence Thomas broke the
Oh,
law, and he's even close. It probably won't matter. All right. Good stuff. All right. Um,
that was a great sub headline.
it was a good one.
Right after that conversation.
I didn't plan it that way, but it's. I'm happy when these things work out.
That was perfect.
Oh my God, so many ads. All right. Um, we talked about this last week, but DeSantis, I'll kill Reedy Creek deal. Consider hotel tax and tolls for Disney World. We mentioned this last week, and um, I knew that this was going to come. I knew that he was going to fight back. Is this Governor DeSantis winning?
Yes.
You think so?
Well, essentially, he's basically pledging that he's going to go to just about any length
Mm-hmm.
to make it so that this is not possible. Um,
Well,
I think that this is going to be just a step short of, this is they're going to do this legal battle, and then If he doesn't have his way, then he's going to turn around and dissolve the entire district. That's just what it's going to end up coming to.
That's his next move. Okay. Because
Yeah.
I think Disney World is going to fight back against this. Uh, DeSantis says hotel taxes, which increase in taxes, and tolls at Disney World, like toll roads and stuff like that,
Hmm.
setting it up, making Disney vacations more expensive, and people will either not go or Disney will have to lower its prices. And in lowering those prices, they lower their profits, and the people aren't showing up because it costs more money. This hurts their business. That's DeSantis' plan, right? And by threatening this and or enacting it, he expects what? Disney to say, okay, we're sorry, we shouldn't have done that, and then reinstate the people that he reinstate the appointed board and give them their authority.
I certainly think that the uh, the threats there are an additional pressure on Disney to just cave. I mean, if that ends up happening, that will hurt Disney's bottom line, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you end up with extra taxes on and tolls on roads and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, that'll hurt Disney's bottom line because less people will go because things are more expensive. Yes.
Okay. And what do you expect Disney to do after this? You think they're going to
Probably.
give up?
No, I doubt it.
Okay. Because I think I know what they're going to do next.
What do you think they're gonna do?
Oh, they're going to take away all the season pass and lifetime season passes of everyone in the Florida government. How many people are in the Florida House of Representatives? I think they have every single one of them.
I don't think that.
The House is composed of 120 members, each elected from a single member district in a population of approximately 180,000 residents. Legislative district, great. 120 members of the House of Representatives of Florida
Mm,
have free lifetime, well, maybe not lifetime, but uh, passes to go
that
to
sounds an
Disneyland.
awful lot like a bribe.
It sure does.
I
Dis-
think we
but
just had a
are you
conversation about these.
are you doubting that Disney would do that? Is that something Disney
Oh,
would
I
do?
don't doubt it at all.
You don't doubt it at all
And
that Disney would give every single member of the House of Representatives of Florida a free pass for them and their family to come to Florida to Disneyland.
yeah, and if they are doing that and this causes them to stop, then I'm on board.
Then they stop giving this to the House
Uh
representatives.
huh.
Do the House representatives turn on Ron DeSantis?
No, it's a fucking Disney pass. They
It's a
they cost like a
worth
hundred and something bucks for
thousands of
Florida
dollars.
residents.
No, they're going to cost thousands of dollars for these people. These people, the 120 members of the House, are about to lose all their Disney benefits and any money they were getting from Disney. So, how many of these 120 members are getting campaign donations from Disney? I bet most of them are, because that's going to stop. Disney's going to stop contributing to the Florida government. And then they're going to put out a PR campaign about Ron DeSantis increasing taxes and increasing tolls.
A Florida resident Disney annual pass is $205.
Okay. And I bet that's the bare bones bottom of the barrel. I bet that's for the people. I bet there is a more expensive pass that you can get that gets you in the front of lines and gets you into certain places and gets you in on a certain time and stuff like that. I bet there is higher tiers of
Oh,
Disney
there are.
passes.
Let's see. There is the highest one, which
Mm-hmm.
they're probably getting, is $1,400 for the year.
$1,400 for a year.
Yeah.
That $1,400 pass is given from Disney to every single member of the Florida House, regardless of which side they're on. I'm willing to bet they're giving it to the Republicans and Democrats both.
Most likely.
Is that lobbying? Is that corruption? Is that bribery? Maybe, kinda, a little bit. This is a gift, just like we talked about a minute ago. This is
Uh-huh.
but it's a company giving a gift. I think it's definitely
Which is a little different
slightly
because
different.
that would eliminate the personal considerations angle.
Right.
And also, the House of Representatives operates under other ethical guidelines.
Hmm.
Or I'm sure the Florida House has different guidelines than the courts do.
Okay. Yeah, I've no doubt that the Florida House of Representatives has different ethical guidelines than the Supreme
I
Court of the
mean,
United States.
even the Supreme Court has different ethical guidelines from the federal House of Representatives or the
Mhm.
federal Senate or the executive branch.
Okay.
So,
If these 84 Republicans suddenly lose that expensive pass, and they lose any money that uh, uh, Disney was giving to their campaigns, do they turn on Ron DeSantis? Do they?
I don't think so.
Okay. I don't think they do it publicly, but I think they might pressure him privately and be like, "Hey, listen, Ron, I'm missing out thousands of dollars because of what you're doing. What are you going to do about that?" And if Disney only gives to the blue team in Florida, is that not a move that would weaken Mr. DeSantis and the Republicans?
It could, but I would think that Disney would have to take away powers or take away the pass from all of them. And they can still continue to donate to the Blues and quit donating to
Hmm.
the Reds.
Hmm.
But if you only take the pass away from the ones that vote in a way you don't like, then you probably run the risk of uh, making an obvious political bribe, which then you could end up with even worse consequences in that case.
Okay, so yeah, you're suggesting that it's less a bribe if Disney just
If it
says, "I
just
give
goes
it
to
to everybody.
everybody
Every single
on a
person who gets
uh
elected gets this pass. We love Florida. We love being part of it. Here's your pass. The guy who
yeah,
gets in next year, he gets one too." Okay.
I'd say it looks like less of a bribe if it is an unconditional
Okay.
gift, right?
Okay.
If it's unconditional, if you make it, if you as soon as you make it conditional on a political decision, now you're definitely now you're definitely engaging in prostitution, right?
Okay.
It's that conditionality on whether they do something politically you don't like as to whether you give it to them or not,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yes, I think so. Um, so I think that's what Disney will do next. That's their next move. If he actually does um, the hotel tax and the uh, toll roads and or making it difficult for people to come in and out, they will strike back. And what they'll do is those things, and then they'll make it maybe I think what they'll do is they'll get their lawyers on it, and I think they have an army of lawyers that is far more capable than what the DeSantis can put together.
Possibly.
And let's see, I think that if and then DeSantis does the dissolution thing that you said. So he's fired. They're going to fire back and say, well, okay, you don't get these things and these things and those things, and we're not going to, and we're going to get lawyers after that. Then DeSantis is going to fire back again and dissolve the thing. And I think he loses because of that. That's not a win for him. S- Wiping out the entire field and salting the earth so nobody can ever live there again isn't a win. It's an act of desperation. It is the last thing that he wants to do is dissolve this, cause a severe increase in taxes and irritation to the Florida public. He'll call it a win, but I don't think it is. And I don't think that they would do this if Disney agreed with them.
Well, it'll be a win with collateral damage. Is what it would
A
be.
win with collateral damage. Okay.
I mean, the original plan was that,
Mm-hmm.
and then they switched it to, well, instead of doing that, let's try and not have any collateral damage.
Mm-hmm.
And then Disney kind of, thumbed their nose at that,
Mm-hmm.
and the original plan is still a possibility.
What, the
But
dissolution of the entire district? Is that
yeah,
the original plan?
I think so. I mean, I know that at the very least, they were going to pass legislation that straight up just took away all the powers that Disney had in there. And the reason it was going to increase the taxes and whatnot is because I don't think the district would have its same special rights and whatnot.
Okay. Um, shit, I should have closed that thing. It was a damn thing I wanted to read. Anyway, it was, yeah. Sorry, I closed the wrong tab. Earlier this week, during the meeting with shareholders, Disney CEO Bob Iger took aim at Mr. DeSantis, calling his actions anti-business, anti-Florida, and arguing that the company had a right to free speech just like individuals do. I think they hit him with that. I think if they sell that the right way, DeSantis looks really bad.
Maybe.
Those are not labels you want attached to your Republican who's running for president. Anti-business, anti-Florida, anti-freedom of speech.
I don't know how many people are going to listen to Bob Iger on that, though.
He controls the biggest media company in the world. Everybody's going to hear him if he wants it heard.
Well,
if
they'll
if
hear him,
Bob
but they
Iger
don't.
wants that to be heard, everyone will hear it.
They'll hear him. They just don't have to believe him.
Well, they don't have to believe him. I agree, but this could become, if he wanted it, the biggest news story in the world. Don't they own news companies, or do they not? Disney.
They do.
They do.
Um,
I don't like the idea that they own news companies, but I know that they do.
I mean, there's only a handful of large media companies that own most of the news. So it's
Okay.
Viacom, Disney, Warner, I think. No, I'm forgetting which ones they are.
I don't remember. I'll look it up later. But yeah, Disney owns ABC News. Um, ABC News could just plaster the airwaves with this, and that's not a small company, you know. Um,
Yeah, it's National Amusements, Disney, Time Warner, Comcast, News
well,
Corp,
no,
and
no, no, no.
Sony.
Wait, they own Time
On
Warner
the,
and Sony too? No, no,
no,
no.
I'm
Oh, you're
saying that
talking about
those
the
are the
people who
six
own.
corporations that own all the media,
Yeah, yeah,
essentially.
yeah. Okay. Um, I think.
Most of Disney's stuff in terms of news is ABC,
Mhm.
and then most of the other news corporations are owned by Time Warner and Comcast. Well, Time Warner, Comcast, and News Corp on most of the news.
Mhm. Um, I think DeSantis is playing a very dangerous game.
Possibly. There could
Uh,
be some high stakes.
yeah. And what I think about him and what he's doing is explained a little bit better in the next story. Is there anything else you want to say about DeSantis or this Disney thing?
Nope.
Okay. Close that and this. Kid Rock shoots up a Bud Light cans with a rifle to protest Dylan Mulvaney's partnership. Um, so we'll just watch this wonderful little video. Can you hear it?
No.
Okay, I'll transcribe.
Feeling a little frisky.
Grandpa's feeling a little frisky today.
Let me say something to all you.
I like
Let
the
me
Kid
say
Rock
something
voice.
as
all
clear
you and make it as clear and concise as possible.
Oh, you know. Oh, never mind.
Rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat, Okay, that was the video. Now, why did he do that? Do you know why he did that?
It wasn't the headline there.
He made because Bud Light made a transgender woman a spokesperson. That's it. The end. The whole thing. That's it. A transgender woman did a commercial for the piss water that he likes. And this has made him severely upsetty spaghetti. This offends him in such a large way.
Okay.
He's a snowflake who's been triggered, literally triggered, triggered. And I think it's sad and pathetic. And this guy is a grown ass man who's acting like a fucking baby about his favorite piss water. And I think if it were a different type of minority that they hired, we'd all scream about how terrible he is. We'll play a game. The game is called If It Were Black. What if Anheuser-Busch made a black woman the spokesperson, and then he got triggered and shot the place up? Shot the not the place up. Shot these cans.
I mean, do you really think that wouldn't happen?
I think it might if he were a racist. Would I be right to call him a racist at that point?
Sure.
Okay.
You would be.
What if it were a Jew that
Uh-huh.
Anheuser-Busch made into a spokesperson, and then he shot the cans up? He
Uh-huh.
would then be an anti-Semite.
Right.
But because it's a transgender woman, he's a transphobe, and this is a reason that we shouldn't listen to anything he has to say. This is a reason to abandon him and the people who think like him.
Well, I'd say it's a good thing I've already never listened to anything he has to say,
I
or
know.
sing for that matter.
Right.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck what Kid Rock says,
Okay.
and I also don't give a fuck who Bud Light's spokesperson is because I don't drink their beer
Okay.
in the first place anyway.
Oh, I don't because it's piss water. But
Well, that's why I don't drink their beer.
yeah.
Because it's disgusting.
um,
So I actually couldn't care less about this story. I don't care about Kid Rock, and I don't care about Bud Light.
okay. He's gonna be probably on the stage with Donald Trump.
Probably.
Donald Trump's gonna have a rally, and he's gonna bring Kid Rock, and he's already been on the stage with him before.
Right.
Um, he does tend to like him, I think.
I mean, wasn't he
Yeah, they're
wearing a
just cool
MAGA hat
guys. Yeah.
in the video?
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
It's a white hat. I don't see what's written on it though. Ah, there it is. Yeah, it's a white MAGA hat. They're tricking me. They're sneaking up. They're sneaking up on me. Now they're selling white MAGA hats. They're supposed to be red so I can see them from a mile away. Come on, you guys. Sneaky sons of bitches. Um, Republicans are obsessed with trans people. And I think it's going to bite them in the ass.
I think that the perceived obsession is probably coming from the overwhelming visibility at this point. We already had this discussion a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of visibility that they continue to get is fueling the continued negative response at this point, I think.
The visibility that trans people get?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought about that. I know exactly why that is. Did I tell you why that is?
No, why?
Oh, because 10% of America uses Twitter. 100% of politicians are on Twitter. 100% of political activists are on Twitter. 100% of trans people are on Twitter.
Well,
You're laughing because you know it's true. Um,
it is. Yeah.
and because these groups of people are now in the same space, it becomes a big deal.
How come we don't
I
see a bunch of furries then? I mean, 100% of furries are also on Twitter.
I think that if Anheuser-Busch hired one as a
People,
spokesperson, that Kid Rock might have an opinion about it.
he probably will.
Um, I mean, I suspect that everybody has an opinion about furries. I mean, you can say, hey, well, what do you think about this? Everybody has an opinion about everything. But what, there aren't, I don't think there are as many furries as there are trans people. I don't know. But they're not being legislated against in state houses across the country. Uh, they're not loud not as loud on Twitter, I think, as trans people tend to be.
I bet you if they started being promoted routinely and regularly to the point of overexposure in the
Mm-hmm.
media,
Mm-hmm.
there would be legislation that starts getting passed because then
I think you're
you're
right.
going to start having the first time that a kid decides they want to dress up like the funny man on TV,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you're going to have, well, they're promoting bestiality,
Right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I think you would see that kind of legislation start to come about with
Okay.
when you started sort of overexposing the furry community to people that are not amenable to the to that behavior.
Right. And that would make sense. Um, Kid Rock is, uh, what's the word when you reacting? He is reaction. He's a reactionary. He's reacting to this thing that he saw. And
Yes, that is what he's doing.
if he were to see a furry uh, trying to sell him piss water, he would then react to that. He'd probably react relatively the same way, maybe, but I think he's reacting this way with the rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tats because he has been convinced that trans people are groomers. They are sexual predators.
It's possible. He certainly should be a lot more careful with his messaging, I think.
That's bad
This
messaging, right?
one, well, I mean, this one could end up being construed as inciting violence.
Right. I was thinking about that too. Is he suggesting we shoot trans things? If
Right.
if
Yeah.
Bud Light is now trans, do we shoot it? Uh,
This was a particularly stupid thing for him to do, I think. If he just got on camera and said, fuck Anheuser-Busch, and didn't shoot a gun at the cases of beer,
hmm He
uh,
just called for a boycott, or he said, I won't be doing business with them, and they will not be allowed on my tours and stuff like that. That's
yeah.
acceptable. I think that's more acceptable.
Yeah,
I
way more acceptable. This is sketch because now if somebody goes out and at any point they say they were inspired by Kid Rock to do this, now he's fucked.
hmm
If somebody goes out and kills a trans person, then he could be held responsible for it.
Yep, that is worst case scenario. Yeah.
Not a very smooth move on his part.
Yeah. I think this was a bad thing. I agree. Um. Okay. What else we got? We got. Oh, this is good. Pentagon's UK. Jeez, let me start over. Pentagon's Ukraine war plans leaked on Minecraft Discord before Telegram and Twitter. This keeps happening. Usually it's War Thunder or one of those war games, but the earliest versions of a leaked Pentagon document online seem to come from a small gaming community forum. Um, Classified documents detailing NATO and America's plans to support Ukraine in repelling Russia's invasion leaked online, sparking an investigation by the Pentagon. We still don't know how the documents have leaked to Twitter and Telegram, but they first appeared online on 4chan and before that a gaming discussion group. What were these plans? When were they? Is this an old thing that happened and we just found out about it?
I don't know, and I don't want to. Uh, because I can't.
That's fine. Um, uh, all right. Well, the we should have our security expert on next week. How would that sound?
That sounds good.
Okay. Next week, our security expert, Mr. Matt, will we will get him. We will get him on. He will tell us about it, and we will find out what happened. And well, not what happened, but it's interesting.
I imagine that somebody either took these files and decided to upload them
hmm
on an image board. Or there was some kind of interference. I think it was most likely a leak as it's described. And somebody that, well, I don't know why they would do it, but they decided to somehow copy the files without detection
hmm
and then upload them to various places.
On the War Thunder boards and stuff like that, it's to prove a point or to prove that you're right about a tank or about a plane or about the. They have very complicated arguments about the range of this gun and how many gallons this tank burns per hour because they want their video game to be 110% accurate. And so people argue about specs and stuff like that, and that leads to people getting their actual specs of tanks and planes and warships and stuff like that, and then posting them on the forums to prove that they are correct.
That is fucking crazy. Classified documents to be stolen and leaked online over a video game.
Over a
That
video game
is
argument, yeah. And then you can say, hey,
insane.
look at this. This is the documents right here. I got the official government documents. This plane from Russia actually only has a 37-gallon tank with this and that, and it can go this many miles, but not that many miles. You are wrong on the internet, and I have proven you wrong. So that's generally how they work. Leak on like the War Thunder and the warships and the warplane stuff on those
That is, I
games.
mean, in order to get the documents in question, you have to be somebody with a clearance.
Or a hacker.
Oh
Half of
boy.
it, you're right. Half of it is people with clearance playing these games and taking those documents from their actual government. The other half is hackers.
Yeah, that first half is fucking crazy.
I agree. It is very wild, but that's how it happens sometimes. Um,
This one, I think, maybe could have been talked about during the government corruption segment.
oh yeah, I might be able to patch that in. How does that connect to government corruption? Do you think?
So Leo DiCaprio had some testimony
Mm-hmm.
this past week in a case relating to a Chinese billionaire
Oh,
who has been funneling money through certain celebrities in the United States to political campaigns.
what do I Google here? Leonardo DiCaprio,
Uh,
Chinese
it'll be
billionaire,
DiCaprio, Joe.
testifies at Fuji's rapper. No, it's five
Yes,
days
that's
ago.
the
That
one.
one.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Oh no.
It's a Malaysian financier, excuse me. Here you go.
Malaysia.
I got a link for you.
You got a good link. Okay.
Oh fuck.
Hmm.
Do you have any articles for free left on Reuters? Because I don't.
I have
Well,
no
actually, let
idea.
me see if. Never mind.
It loaded
I
for me.
figured it out. Nice.
Actor Leonardo DiCaprio told a Washington jury on Monday that Malaysian financier Joe Low revealed his plans to donate up to $30 million to help U.S. President Barack Obama's 2012 re-election campaign in what prosecutors allege was part of an illegal foreign influence operation. It was a casual conversation about what party he was in support of, giving a significant donation to the Democratic Party, somewhere in the tune of 20 to 30 million. And that's a lot of money, said DiCaprio. The, they denied the allegations. Do we know if the money went through?
I am not sure yet.
The Justice Department in 2018 reached a civil settlement with the film. Oh, that's not what we're talking about.
This is all part of an ongoing case.
Okay.
It's been ongoing for about 7 years now.
Okay. Hmm.
But my understanding of this story is that the plan was to funnel money through U.S. actors and celebrities to the
Mm-hmm.
campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering now, maybe I'll look into it more this week and see if there's any evidence of the money actually making it there.
Interesting. Yeah, that would be. Oh wait, did you what? But I mean, they would have to pay the PACs. Yeah. So you give Leo $1 million and say, hey, give most of this to a specific political
Oh,
PAC.
here's the one that I saw that has a little more specific information on Fortune.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a article or a paragraph in this one. According to the charges, so one of the primary people was a member of the Fugees,
Mm-hmm.
who directed over $21 million to be moved from foreign entities to the Fugees members' accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm avoiding saying their name because their last name is Michelle, and I don't want it to be confused with Michelle Obama. So I'm going to avoid saying Michelle's accounts.
Okay.
In order to funnel money to the 2012 presidential election, they say Michelle then paid, this person then paid about 20 straw donors
The
and
rapper.
conduits so that they could make the donations in their names and conceal where the money actually came from. according to the indictment.
I don't like that.
Yeah, so now I'm wondering who all the straw donors were, and how many of them were, and whether or not uh, the Obamas knew
Hmm.
about this scheme. Do you think it's possible that something comes up from one of the people that ends up testifying that implicates them in some way?
Maybe, maybe not. Um, if you were doing this well, you wouldn't want them to know, to give them plausible deniability. Um, this is why super PACs should be outlawed. Exactly this reason. Because what this person did was take money from a Malaysian person, split it up, gave it to other people, who then put it into super PACs. And in those super PACs, don't have to like uh, disclose who their money came from or where it came from. And then they use those super PACs to buy ads, to buy websites, to buy YouTube ads, to buy TV ads, and then the uh, political person, Barack Obama in this situation, benefits from that. But because he didn't make the ad and he didn't take the money and he didn't get the money from this rapper who got it from Malaysia, there's 6 degrees of separation between him and where the money came from that it's not his fault anymore. That's why political action committees were invented, is for exactly this. This is what Citizens United gives us. This is what it gives us. And that's why it ought to be gotten rid of.
I do wonder if there is a potentially 1 degree of separation instance here, because after um, Obama won his reelection campaign,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that he did was make the first visit to Malaysia for a sitting U.S. president in something like 50 years.
Interesting. He went to Malaysia. Okay.
And there are pictures of him with Jolo.
Yeah.
So now whether he knew what Jolo was doing when those pictures were taken is another question. But he did visit Malaysia after his reelection.
Flanked by Michelangelo's father. Yeah. So he's meeting with these people. This is uh, maybe 1 or 2 degrees of corruption away. Yeah. This sucks. We should not allow it.
You know, if it does come out that he knew what was going on, we have just set a precedent in New York that you're allowed to indict a former president.
Well, you're allowed to indict a former president for crimes that they've committed.
For campaign finance related crimes.
Campaign finance related crimes. Yes. And if this person is found guilty, that's good. And if we have evidence and messages between Barack Obama's lawyer and these people's lawyers, and where he's paying them money, or he's not paying them money, but he's like directing his lawyers to take this money, and he knows that it's coming from a foreign government, then yeah, he's committed some crimes and ought to be.
Could get interesting.
I think that it could, but it probably won't. If this guy, Jolo, is not an idiot, he didn't describe this stuff to Obama. If he is an idiot and he described it specifically and talked about how, hey, I'm going to give you all this foreign money through these 7 steps, and then you get to have it. And then Obama's like, yeah, okay, cool, good job, high five, buddy.
I mean,
then he
the
has
whole
committed
reason he
crimes.
got caught whole reason he got caught was because he was dumb enough to tell Leonardo DiCaprio that he intended to donate $30 million to Obama's campaign
Right.
in the first place, and that's
Right.
what kicked off the whole investigation, apparently.
Yeah. And this is bad. We shouldn't allow it. And if we are going to create a law preventing it, we would just have to get rid of Citizens United and get rid of CPACs. Not CPACs. Political action committees.
Well, in this case, we already have laws that prevent this. We don't allow foreign entities to donate to
Right. Foreign
political
entities aren't.
campaigns.
But Jolo gave an American a bunch of money, and that American gave a bunch of money to the Political Action Committee. And that might,
Which is still not allowed.
probably not. But what if he put
Well, I mean,
6
that
months in
all
between it? What if he
all
put
that is
his money in?
we have a term for that too, though.
Mm-hmm.
That term is called money laundering.
I don't know if that's money laundering. The concealments or the origins of illegally obtained money. I mean, it wasn't illegally obtained. Jolo is allowed to give a rapper money if he feels like it. He's allowed to do that. And that rapper can give it to a political action committee.
Well, the process of illegally concealing the origin of money obtained from illicit activities such as drug trafficking, corruption, embezzlement, gambling, by converting it into a legitimate source. So if
Mhm.
your intention with that money is to commit a crime,
Mhm.
now this is giving it to a legitimate source so that a crime can be committed, as opposed to committing a crime to obtain the money and then
Mhm.
giving it to a legitimate source.
Mhm.
However, just because that's backwards doesn't necessarily make it not money laundering. And then on top of that, the money that he did get in this case, at least some of it, came from embezzlement in Malaysia.
Mhm.
So it was illegally obtained.
Okay, so Joe illegally obtains it,
Uh-huh.
gives it to a
By
rapper.
embezzling it from the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Malaysia, 1MDB.
Okay, so he has illegal money, and that
Uh-huh.
money then goes to a rapper. That rapper gives it to 12 different people. Those 12 different people give it to political action committees, and those political action committees buy uh, air time on the airwaves to promote Barack Obama.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly. And then
if
shortly into
uh-huh.
his re-election,
Mhm.
he then visits Malaysia
Mhm.
and also upgrades Malaysia's human rights status. Uh, Even though there are still significant violations over there.
Okay. If the political action committee didn't exist, the situation ends, right?
Possibly. But
Because if the
do you think that there
action
wouldn't
committee,
be a way to get that money into
it
the
would
campaign either
it
way?
would be far more difficult, I would say. Political action committees are the grease that makes this system work. They are the emulsifier. They are the oil and water don't mix. Oil is money and water is politics, and they don't mix unless you have the political action committee that emulsifies them and makes them into one thing. They are the go-between. And if that go-between ends, then there is no going between. And when it does go between, you notice it more obviously. Because they didn't put this money in Barack Obama's bank account. They didn't give him
Right.
a briefcase filled with unmarked bills.
Mm-hmm.
They put it in a uh, lawful 527 organization, which is a thing that our government allows.
Well,
And
actually, hold on. Some of
that
it could have gone
organization,
to the PAC, but the actual re-election campaign itself, it could have been donated to as
if
well.
they're doing 5,000 apiece, that's why you would give it to 11 straw people who then give it to them. Because you can't dump $1 million onto a direct committee. I mean, a direct what's the word? Campaign.
The
You can't
direct
just
campaign,
dump
yeah.
$1 million onto the campaign directly. That's not allowed. So because it's not allowed, you have to find a dozen straw people to give the maximum amount that they're allowed to give, and then you have to find the action committee to put all the rest of it in. Yeah, politics and money shouldn't. Uh, we need to get the money out of politics.
On that, I
The
agree.
the money is part of the problem. Money is power. Power is authority. Authority is airwaves, and airwaves is politics. You know, it's all connected. Um, so yeah, super PACs, unlike traditional PACs, in that they may engage in unlimited political spending independently of the campaigns and may raise funds from individuals, corporations, unions, and other groups without any legal limit to the donation size. So this is super PACs and Citizens United that I think we ought to do away with. I mean, Obama definitely took advantage of the super PACs when he could.
Right.
But that's because these are the rules of the game. I don't like it. I wish we could undo it, but here is Mr. Bill Maher, a definite liberal leftist person, giving Obama $1 million to a super PAC live on TV. He said, "I'm going to do it," and then he did. And I think by him doing this, he suggests that we shouldn't be allowed to do that. This should be illegal. This should not be allowed. And he said it while he was signing this stupid $1 million check. This shouldn't be legal, but it is.
Yeah, I agree.
And if Obama doesn't play this game, if the next Democrat to run doesn't play with super PACs, I know Bernie doesn't use super PACs, and he's charismatic enough to pull it off generally, but he's never won the presidency. Um, the next Democrat will use them to get elected because you can't. If you don't win, you don't get to make the rules. If you don't make the rules, you lose.
Right.
So electoralism, it sucks, and it's the opposite of idealism. But you have to do it sometimes. There are people who, maybe I'm talking to one, don't like Donald Trump, but if he were the Republican nominee, would vote for him.
Yeah. Pretty
Uh,
accurate.
Not because they like him, not because they have to, not no, it is because they have to, not because they want to, but because they have to, and there's no other choice. I kind of felt that way about Hillary. I don't think she's as nightmarish as everybody else seems to think she is, but I would have preferred Bernie, and I didn't get Bernie, so I voted for Hillary in a red state, and my vote went to nothing. So um, we got to get money out of politics, and it comes down to super PACs. If something comes up and we get direct evidence that Joe Low and Obama made concessions and did things for Joe Low and his country because of all this dirty money that he got, then let's prosecute him for it.
That would be neat.
I don't like this idea. If I would suspect that he didn't know anything about it. If just off the top of my head, I haven't heard anything about this before today. I would suspect that he didn't know anything about it because that's the way you keep them. That's the way you keep you keep your illegal stuff at the Joe Low level and run it through 7 proxies. so that nobody knows where it's coming from.
You keep it on the down low.
You keep it on the Jolo.
Yep. All right. I don't think I have anything else for today.
I don't either.
Right.
So, I will. I didn't introduce you at the beginning of the show, but
Ooh, I have a new name.
you do, and I didn't even mention it because you weren't here. Um, uh,
Hi, everyone. I'm Thomas.
this is Thomas. We're going to go with his real name rather than the word modular to describe him. So I'll be referring to him as Thomas from now on, and we'll use his real name, and we'll use my real name, which is Waldo Schwarzenegger. Um, it is a very common name, and I've never known anybody else with it. So that is my name. And it might be something else next week. You never know. So the Thomas and Waldo Schwarzenegger show.
Great. I like it.
All right. That is it for today. It's almost lunchtime. My kid has been sick, so I haven't done anything all week. He doesn't have the COVID, but I haven't gone to watch any movies or anything like that. I've been sitting at home making Twitter. I made a Twitter for the stream, and now it exists. And I tweeted that we were streaming, and I suspect that no one has seen it or looked at it or done anything with it in any way, shape, or form. I have no followers. I don't know how Twitter works. I have 2 followers. Oh my God. It's happening.
See?
It's happening. 2 followers. Okay. And that is what I did this week. It took a while because I didn't know what I was doing. Uh, uh, but yeah, I've got a Twitter. We've got the Discord up. I will add the Discord link into the description of this stream, and it's on all the videos as well. So I think we're actually becoming YouTubers and live streamers, and I have 2 followers, so it is happening.
Beautiful.
Fantastic. Well, as usual, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. I know you had a bit of an issue this morning, but I appreciate you coming in and hopping on. It's always a lot easier to do this with somebody to talk to, you know?
Of course.
And if you're watching, click the like buttons, click the comment buttons, tell me how right I am or how wrong I am, and then tell us how right or wrong Thomas is in the comments, by all means. I will respond with agreement and or disagreement. And then there's places in the Discord for disagreement and discussion and arguments and facts and logic. Lots of it. And that is a stream. And where's my buttons? There's my buttons. All right. Everybody have a good day.
Everybody.
Goodbye.